Hi everyone, my name is Jason Strong, and today for a class project, what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about a book that I've read and really enjoy. It's entitled Monday Morning Leadership, and it was written by David Cottrell. Basically, the the essence of this book is that David is a manager, and he's sort of spinning his wheels. He was at one time the golden child at his company, and since then he's kind of fallen on some slow times. He's not getting a lot of things done at work. He's working a lot more hours than he used to, and still he's not getting much done. And this is kind of getting into his health. His health is deteriorating, as is his quality of life and his family life. So he goes to a mentor of his by the name of Tony Pierce, and the talks that they have over 8 weeks on Monday mornings, hence the title, kind of form this book. And I'll leave it to you to read the prologue and the epilogue at the end. However, what I really would like to talk to you are about the 8 lessons that they kind of go through. Lesson one was the first Monday, and that would be entitled Drivers and Passengers. Basically, what this means is that as a team, basically all of your teammates, your passengers together. You're allowed to do the same things. You may complain to one another when it's when one of those situations comes up, but as a manager or a leader, you no longer have that basically that right to join in on the pity parties and to kind of put your the people who used to be your coworkers and now your subordinates, you're their leader, you're kind of putting them in an awkward situation. So a good thing that they say is to ignore that. And a couple of points here: until you accept total responsibility, no matter what, you will not be able to put plans in place to accomplish your goals. Transitioning from coworker to leader requires that you make different decisions. Again, they akin it to driving a car. As a passenger, you're allowed to do a lot of different things. You can take a nap, you can read a book, you can listen to radio loud. However, as a driver, you're not allowed to do those things. Your job as the driver is to keep your eyes on the road, hands on the wheel, and keep yourself, aware of what's going on around you. So they use that analogy in this, and it works out really well. The second Monday, entitled Keeping the Main Thing. And that kind of goes without saying. But this really is to try and find out what the main thing for your team is at your work. Whether you're in telecommunications, you're in sales, whatever it is, there is that main thing that your team is doing. And you can get distracted by all the other things that can be going on at work that you really forget what that main thing is. So this lesson was really to try and hammer down on what that main thing is. And some points are, what is the main thing? People have different perceptions of what the main thing is. Again, your teammates, if you ask them, 5 teammates, what we do, chances are you're going to get 5 different answers there are going to have and share some commonalities. But there may be extra things that you each can think of. So it's real important that not only do you have your team think about what those main things are, but you verbalize them to each other. You have a meeting and you say, okay, team, what do you think your main thing is here at work? And another thing is, they talk about people quit people before they quit companies. And again, that's sort of self-explanatory as well. If you're not a good manager and you're not keeping the main thing, and you're off sort of doing 100 different other things, your employees will react to that. You don't manage and they don't, they're not led in a vacuum. You definitely have your goals that you have to meet. And this is, what they talk about that. The third Monday was escape from management land. So escape from management land. And that means to basically just get in touch with your people. Your job is not to lower the bottom by adjusting and accommodating the falling stars. You should be raising the top by recognizing and rewarding superstar behavior. Basically, in this book, David breaks down employees into three different categories. One, you have your superstars, which comprise about 30% of your team on average. Falling stars are about 20%, and those are the lowest. Those are the people that are at risk for being on suspension, or they're always on a performance improvement plan, and they equate to about 20% of your team. And in the middle, you have all those middle stars. And what we need to do is we don't need to lower the expectations of the team. Again, they will actually feel like you're doing the falling stars a favor by making them do less work and giving all the hard stuff to your superstars. And in your mind, you may be doing that because they're going to get it done, and they're my toughest worker, they're my go-to worker for this. But in their minds, they're saying, what incentive do I have to remain a superstar or whatever you want to label it? What incentive is there for them when you know the falling stars are still getting a paycheck, nobody's fired them, and they're not given the harder assignments. And so again, there's no incentive for them in their mind. So that's one thing that we have to do. We have to make sure that as managers we are not lowering our level of expectation as to what we want our employees to do. We always need to raise that bar. The fourth Monday is considered the do right rule. Basically, what this means is, develop your action plan before you get into a crisis. Give action plan to all employees. What that means is, for example, they talk in the book about David had an employee, and he called him Todd in this book, and Todd had a drinking problem, and Todd and David had a conversation, and David was very clear about the fact that alcohol at work is not condoned in any way, shape, or form. Todd went in with the story of his life at home was hard. The wife and him weren't getting along very well, but he acknowledged that it was an issue, and he said it would never happen again. And David went away from that meeting thinking, okay, things are going to work out with Todd. Well, unfortunately, he caught Todd again with alcohol on his breath. So David ended up going to the HR department and asking what they thought he should do. And it was clear as day in the employee handbook that any type of alcohol on the job is a terminating offense, especially considering the fact that David had already had a conversation with Todd. So they went ahead and fired him. But in the book, they called it dehiring. The way they figured it is David didn't fire Todd. Todd chose to fire himself or dehire himself due to the fact that he had drank even after he was told that it couldn't happen again, and he acknowledged that fact. So you're not firing them, they're dehiring themselves. Again, the fifth Monday kind of goes hand in hand with the fourth Monday, but the fifth Monday is hire tough. And the most important asset in your company is having the right people on your team. And never lower your standards just to fill a position, and you're going to pay for that later. And use the rule of three when you are hiring. What they mean by that is obviously everyone, customer service week comes around, and you always hear that, the most important asset in any company are your frontline staff or your team. And really, when you consider it, when you think about it, they're doing a far greater amount of the work than you, the manager, alone are doing. So we like to throw that out there as leaders, as managers, that, the team is the most important thing. But when you think about it, from the amount of work that they do to the amount of work that you alone do, they are doing, a lion's share. So, they definitely are the greatest asset. And what they mean by, obviously, use the rule of three to hire. Basically, that means you interview at least three qualified candidates. You interview those three candidates at least three times, and then after that, you allow three other people to evaluate them, whether that means having another interview, going over your interview notes and the resume and whatnot, just making sure you're getting another set of eyes on that because, for example, it may be a former friend or an acquaintance, someone you may have worked with back in the day. You're thinking you're doing your best to give them, you're not going easy on them as far as hiring, but it may turn out that subconsciously you've done that. So by giving those other people the opportunity to evaluate those candidates, you're making sure that you weren't blindsided by anything. The sixth Monday was called Do Less or Work Faster. And basically what this means is your time is your responsibility. Take control of your time so you can take control of your life. Everywhere you go, no matter what office you're in, you always hear people saying, I don't have time for this, or this is taking too long, or, I never am able to do this. But in the end, really your time is your responsibility. Nobody can, take that away from you. Nobody can um, do things, that cause you to lose it. It's all about you. One of the things you can do is look for small increments of time by prioritizing, limiting interruptions, and effectively managing meetings. By effectively managing meetings, what they mean here is that the average person in a corporation wastes about 250 hours a year in unproductive meetings. That's obviously a lot of time and money wasted. Um, don't have a meeting just to have a meeting. Your team may have a meeting every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Well, if there's nothing important on the agenda, don't have that meeting. It really is simple, but we think that, well, it's on the agenda, or we have to have the meeting because there may be something we need to talk about. But again, if you don't have the important things on the agenda, most things can wait. Let's see here. A couple more things about meetings. You always start on time and you always end on time. And when you start on time, if someone comes in late, you don't recap. Obviously there may be exceptions to the rule where the CEO of the company comes in and he's a few minutes late. You have to recap for them, but if a team member comes in and they're 5 minutes late, there's no reason you guys should recap for them. It just causes that meeting to extend out. So just let them figure it out after the meeting's over. They can hook up with somebody to get that information that they missed. Again, batch like things that you have to do. For example, if you have to read emails, don't keep your email open and go back and forth to your email because that just gets you out of the frame of mind of that task that you're trying to accomplish. Shut your email down. Maybe go to it on the hour or set a timer on your Outlook calendar to beep every 2 hours or whatever. On most companies they have a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time for email responses. So find out what your company policy is and use that to your advantage. It will save you so much time. For example, if you're working on an Excel spreadsheet or you're in a database and it's your responsibility to create that, having to go back and forth, it gets you out of that frame of mind of doing the Excel, and it'll probably take you another 10 to 15 minutes to really get back in and focused. So by lumping those things together really saves you time in the end. The seventh Monday